Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Chapter 531. Domineering Estanian Emperor. Donovan glanced at the Emperor of Estania with a frown. Your Majesty, can you give me more time to think about this? I still can't process all that has happened, so I hope that you can give me enough time to sort my thoughts. When he heard of Arsientis' death, Donovan was deeply shocked. He thought that they could turn things around after he had gotten the military support of Veronica, but the news of the Harunian emperor's death left him devastated. He didn't know what to do. Arsientis was more than just his emperor. He was like a brother to him, a close friend, and a confidant. Hearing his words, Emperor John Philip Estania's smile vanished and was replaced with a cold look. Donovan, I understand your situation, but I am giving you a chance here. You know that I have the power to annihilate you and the Veronican army you are so confident of. Stop testing my limits and give me your answer. An overwhelming pressure fell upon Donovan and the three venerables of Veronica. They were furious with his words, but they didn't dare show their anger. No matter how confident they were with their strength, John Philip was just on another level. Even the supreme ruler of Veronica, Empress Esquila Veronica, was wary of him. Gritting his teeth, Donovan lowered his head, his face contorting as he responded. Your Majesty, what do you want me to do? Hearing this, the Estanian emperor's eyes eased up. This war only started because of the foolish decisions of the Harunian imperial family. First, I want them all to be publicly executed to punish them for their crimes. Donovan grimaced when he heard this, but he chose to listen to the other party's demands. The Estanian emperor continued. Second, I want you to choose the new emperor of Harun. Donovan was stunned. What? You want me to? With a gentle smile, John Philip nodded. As the only remaining venerable of Harun, you have every right to choose a suitable ruler. You are the right-hand man of the former emperor, so I'm sure that the people wouldn't object to your decisions. He added. Donovan furrowed his eyebrows, deep in thought. If I don't do as he says, everyone here, including me, will definitely be killed by this man. Without me around, Harun will fall into his hands and become a subordinate empire of Estania. After a minute of silence, Donovan finally spoke. Is there something else that you want to add, Your Majesty? Chuckling, John Philip replied. After you choose a new ruler for Harun, I want you to sign an agreement saying that Harun will willingly become a subordinate nation of Estania. Donovan clenched his fists tightly while trying his best to control his rage. I accept your terms, he replied with a defeated look. John Philip raised his eyebrows in surprise. He thought that Donovan would reject him. At least this man is not an idiot like Arsientis. Good choice, Donovan. Good choice. He laughed cordially while clapping his hands. Lord Donovan, this isn't what we agreed. One of the three Veronican venerables, an old warrior wearing golden armor, spoke but quickly shut his mouth when he sensed John Philip's gaze. You three had better stay out of this. I might accidentally swing my sword if you utter another word, the Estanian emperor said in a domineering tone. The old warrior gnashed his teeth in anger, but he still lowered his head, not daring to say another word. After giving them a warning, John Philip turned his gaze back to Donovan and smiled at him. You will not regret this choice, Donovan. The latter could only smile bitterly. What other choice do I have? Although he valued his friendship with Arsientis, he valued his life more. He stood up and did a fistpalm salute. I will be under your care, Your Majesty. John Philip beamed at him. Alaric and Galliner had traveled for a few hours before they arrived at the temporary camp of the Veronican army. They saw hundreds of thousands of Estanian soldiers outside the camp, standing in neat rows and columns. The atmosphere between the Estanian army and the Veronican army was very delicate, as if a simple fuse could ignite this subtle balance. Upon his arrival, the Estanian soldiers quickly recognized him. Your Highness! Greetings, Your Highness! Alaric was recognized as the third heir to the throne, so the soldiers of Estania were very respectful to him. The generals of the various units stepped forward to greet him. Alaric greeted them one by one. May I ask where His Majesty is? He scanned the faces of the generals. One of the generals answered his query. His Majesty is still speaking with Donovan and the Venerables of Veronica. Do you want me to inform him of your arrival? Alaric quickly shook his head. There is no need to disturb them. I will wait here. It would be disrespectful to barge in on such an important discussion between Venerables. In that case, why don't your Highness rest first? I will have the troops set up a tent for you. All right. Alaric accepted the general's offer. He got off his horse and followed the generals. Galliner silently trailed behind him. While the soldiers were setting up his tent, Alaric noticed a commotion from the Veronican camp. He turned his head and frowned. What happened? It seems like the negotiations have concluded, Your Highness. One of the generals replied. Alaric narrowed his eyes. Bring me inside the camp. I wish to see His Majesty. As you command. Galliner and the Transcendent generals escorted him inside the Veronican camp. They received death stares from the Veronican soldiers, but Alaric ignored them. A moment later, he finally saw a crowd circling a few individuals. Among them, one particular person caught his attention. It was a middle-aged man with long golden hair. With one look, he could already tell that this was the Estanian emperor. Do you want to use appraisal on the selected target? Yes. No. Chapter 532. My most important treasure. John Philip Estania, Mythical Knight EXP. 9499/10,000. Potential SS. Traits, Swordsmanship, SSS. Intimidation, SSS. Close Combat, SSS. Horseback Riding, SS. Shield Mastery, SS. Intuition, SS. Archery, S. Spear Mastery, S. Pain Tolerance, S. Strength, 1,477. Stamina, 1,299. Agility, 1,386. Vitality, 1,400. Endurance, 1,381. Mana, 1,500. Alaric's eyes shook when he saw the Estanian emperor's attributes. I thought the limit of a venerable's attributes was just 1,000. All this time, he believed that 1,000 was the maximum attribute a venerable could reach, but he realized he had been mistaken. He is too powerful. No wonder those venerables look meek in front of him. The difference is just like night and day. As if sensing his gaze, the Estanian emperor glanced in his direction. When their eyes met, he smiled gently at Alaric and walked towards him. Greetings, Your Majesty. I am Alaric Silversword, son of Lucas Silversword and Jade Christine Estania. This was their first meeting, so he introduced himself. I know who you are. The emperor chuckled. You are the most talented prodigy that Estania has ever produced. He added. When he said this, Donovan and the three venerables of Veronica scrutinized Alaric from head to foot. They had heard some information about him, but this was the first time they had seen him in person. Alaric waved his hand while shaking his head. I don't deserve such praise, Your Majesty. There are many ancestors who are more talented than me. John Philip laughed at his words. You don't need to be humble. You can be proud of yourself. No one in history managed to become a transcendent knight at your age. He stared deeply at Alaric when he said the last sentence. This kid. He is close to advancing. The emperor's eyes flashed when he sensed this. I carry the blood of Estania. It is only natural. Alaric boasted without batting an eye. The Estanian emperor was pleased to hear this. He was grinning from ear to ear. Donovan and three venerables of Veronica rolled their eyes as they listened. Oh, I almost forgot. Let me introduce the gentleman behind me. The emperor gestured at Alaric to come closer. This guy right here is Donovan Cleves now. He is the right-hand man of Arcientus van Haroon. The emperor pointed at Donovan. He then leaned over and whispered to Alaric. Don't be fooled by his gentle appearance. This guy is quite cunning. If you come across him next time, you should be very careful. Although he was whispering to Alaric, Donovan and the three venerables still heard his words. They knew that he was intentionally doing this. Alaric didn't expect the emperor to be this mischievous. He thought that the emperor was always serious, but he was still human after all. Do you see this old guy wearing the gaudy golden armor? He is Martin Lancer. He is quite the show-off, but he is the best Lancer I know. The thin guy beside him is Hansel Gremory. He doesn't look like a Veronican citizen because his mother is someone from another empire. And this one right here is Vince Carl Hamilton. He looks the youngest of the three, but he is actually the oldest. He only looks young because of his integrated monster trait. Donovan and the three could only force out ugly smiles on their faces at the emperor's unique way of introducing them. They were annoyed, but they didn't dare show it on their faces. Alaric politely greeted them. Not bad. Not bad. You are young and promising. Martin praised. It looks like the future of Estania is bright, Hansel added. After exchanging pleasantries with the venerables, The emperor cleared his throat and spoke to him. Alaric, your household did a great job in this war. Tell me if you want anything. The emperor's words surprised him. This was a clear sign that the emperor favored him. Is this a test? What should I say here? Alaric was silent for a moment. There's no need to think hard. I will just tell him what I truly want. He looked at the emperor and replied, Your Majesty, I don't have any grand wishes. I just want to go home and see my family again. The emperor raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect this kind of answer from him. If it were his sons, they would definitely ask for some material things or more authority. The Estonian emperor rubbed his chin while staring at him. I initially wanted to bring you with me to watch the execution of the Harunian imperial family, but since you want a vacation, the emperor's face broke into a smile as he nodded his head. All right, I will grant your wish. Hearing this, Alaric was ecstatic. Thank you, Your Majesty. Haha, look at you. Your household contributed a lot and you just asked for a vacation. The emperor was amused. Alaric looked ahead, his face filled with longing. I don't want to regret not seeing them more in the future. My family is my most important treasure. His words resonated deeply in the emperor's heart. I don't want to regret not seeing them in the future. This kid. How can he say such profound words at his age? The emperor recalled the image of someone he hadn't seen in a long time. It was a beautiful woman wearing traditional clothes. She always played the guzheng. The songs she played surfaced in his mind. It was as if she were playing the song right next to him. I should have visited you more often. My wife. Before becoming the emperor of Estonia, he met this gentle woman. She wasn't a noblewoman or the daughter of a rich merchant. She was just a commoner, but she was the only woman who had captured his heart. Thinking about her, he let out a sigh. Alaric, walking by his side, heard this, but he didn't know what the emperor was thinking. Chapter 533. The Emperor's Request. I will send my subordinates to take over the cities under your control. Once they get there, you can take your people home. The emperor patted Alaric's shoulder. Thank you for granting my request, Your Majesty. Feeling grateful, Alaric lowered his head. You deserve it. The emperor responded with a smile. After that exchange, the emperor had a brief conversation with Donovan and the three venerables. He mentioned that he would meet the Veronican Empress and try to make up for her losses. To his words, the three Veronican venerables could only agree without complaint. Alaric, who was observing from the side, couldn't help but admire the emperor. You will be respected if you have absolute power. After some time, the venerables of Veronica excused themselves. Donovan also bid them farewell and left with his subordinates. Only Alaric and the emperor remained. The emperor was silent for a while. Alaric didn't know what to say, so he also stayed quiet. After some time, the emperor suddenly asked him, Alaric, what do you think about becoming the next emperor? Alaric glanced at the emperor in surprise and was tongue-tied for a few seconds. That, Your Majesty, I don't have any interest in becoming the emperor. I don't think I can rule over the nation. Besides, I think Leonard is the right fit for the throne. He honestly told the emperor what was on his mind. I see. What a pity. The emperor shook his head with a regretful expression. I think you are a better fit than Leonard. He might be wise, but he lacks a certain kind of trait that an emperor should have. He paused for a moment before he continued. He is too forgiving. That might be good for now, but once he becomes the ruler of Estonia, there are times when he needs to be ruthless. Alaric, if there comes a time when you think that Leonard will do something wrong, I hope that you will try to help him do what is right. The emperor stared deeply at him. I carry the blood of Estonia, Your Majesty. It is my duty to help him once he becomes the next ruler. Alaric solemnly replied. The emperor smiled faintly. You should return to Midgard. I will make the necessary arrangements so you can have that vacation early. Thank you, Your Majesty. Please be careful on your travels. Alaric bowed and left after bidding him farewell. The emperor watched him leave, his eyes flashing with deep interest. With his help, I don't have to worry about the country's future anymore even when I'm no longer around. Alaric returned to Midgard. His thoughts were still occupied with his last conversation with the emperor. At this moment, a notification popped up in front of him. Mission complete. Rewards, 300 battle points, 30 EXP, 30 stat points. The system notification pulled him from his thoughts. His mission was for Harun to become a subordinate nation of Estonia. I thought I had to wait for a while before I could complete this mission. Without hesitation, he distributed all the stat points he received to his mana. Alaric Silversword, Transcendent Knight EXP, 5000/5000. Potential SS. Traits, Swordsmanship, L. Ruthless Slaughterer SS. Shield Mastery, SS. Supreme Regeneration, S. Horseback Riding A. Close Combat A. Sixth Sense, A. Appraisals B. Hunting C. Tracking C. Monster Affinity C. Mana Gathering C. Archery D. Strength 500. Stamina 500. Agility 500. Vitality 500. Endurance 500. Mana 430. 460. Battle points 25,000. Stat points 30. A 0. Requirements for the next advancement: 5,000 EXP, 500 in all attributes, and 25,000 battle points. His EXP and battle points were already at maximum, so both stats no longer increased. What a waste. Anyway, I just need a little bit more to advance. He smiled after checking his attributes. Several hours later, they finally returned to Midgard. Upon arrival, Alaric summoned Ivana and his closest confidants to his study. I have good news for everyone. He smiled as he scanned their faces. His Majesty has allowed us to return home early, he announced. Everyone cheered upon hearing this. They could finally go home. Since coming to Harun, most of them had never gotten a good night's sleep. They were always on edge and they needed to be cautious wherever they went. Thank you, Your Majesty. His Majesty is so kind. Some of them expressed their gratitude. Seeing them so excited, Alaric reminded them. But we can't leave just yet. We still have to wait for His Majesty's people to take over the city. During this time, you must do your tasks properly so that things will be smoother as soon as they take over. Yes, Your Highness. Everyone responded in unison. All right, that's all I want to say. You all can leave and return to your posts. Alaric waved his hand. One by one, the people in the study left after excusing themselves. Only Ivana stayed behind. Now that you are here, you should continue with the remaining administrative tasks. I haven't had a good sleep in the last few days, the elven princess said while rubbing her temples. Hearing this, Alaric's smile stiffened. I think you were doing a great job. Why stop now? You should keep going and familiarize yourself more with the job, since you will have to do it once we get married. Who said I'm marrying you? The elven princess snorted, pretending to be indifferent about it. Even if you are against it, I will send a proposal to your father soon. Alaric chuckled, playing along with her. Ivana wanted to retort, but she could no longer hide her embarrassment. You are taking advantage of me. I don't want to do all those boring tasks. There was a hint of pleading in her voice. Alaric snickered. So will you agree to become my wife if I promise not to make you do all those tasks? Red-faced, Ivana stared at him. It looked like she wanted to say something, but she couldn't utter a word. In the end, she turned around and left in a huff. Seeing this, Alaric chuckled while shaking his head in amusement. Chapter 534 Imperial Army Arrives. Chapter 534 Imperial Army Arrives. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. Nothing eventful happened, so Alaric was able to complete his daily mission 5 times. If he hadn't had to do some administrative tasks, he would have completed more. With his efforts, he managed to increase his mana from 460 to 470 just from his mana training alone. He also received 15 stat points for completing 5 daily missions. Alaric distributed them directly to his mana, pushing it to 485. I can advance to the next realm in a few more days, but is it safe to advance here? Advancing to the mythical realm would cause an unusual phenomenon that would attract the attention of many people. He had seen it during his father's advancement. Alaric was afraid that he would be targeted during his advancement. Should I advance here or wait until we return to North Pinetown? He pondered deeply. While he was immersed in his thoughts, a notification suddenly popped up in front of him. Mission: Conquering Harun 3. Mission difficulty: Easy. Donovan Cleaves now has commenced the execution of the members of the Harunian imperial family under the direct orders of the Estanian emperor. The execution was carried out in public and was witnessed by many citizens of Harun. The people are now filled with uncertainty about the future of their nation. Give them hope by choosing a new ruler who will take the helm and correct the mistakes made by the previous rulers. Rewards: 200 battle points, 20 EXP, 20 stat points. Seeing this notification, Alaric narrowed his eyes. So that means all of them are dead, including their crown prince. The crown prince of Harun coveted his mother's beauty, so Alaric hated him to the core. His death brought him relief and satisfaction. With a faint smile, he headed back to the mansion. Your Highness! He heard an urgent voice just when he was about to step inside the mansion. He turned around and saw Aldrin running towards him, his face covered in sweat. What happened? Alaric furrowed his eyebrows. Aldrin stopped in front of him and took a deep breath. The Imperial Army is coming. With their marching speed, they should reach Midgard before nightfall. Alaric's expression lit up. Oh? They are finally here, huh? I thought we had to wait for another half a month. Aldrin was also excited. The arrival of the Imperial army meant that they could go home soon. Yes, Your Highness. Alaric chuckled when he saw Aldrin's excited face. Tell everyone to prepare a banquet for our guests. They must be properly welcomed. Do you understand? Your servant understands. I will inform our people right away. Aldrin nodded eagerly. If you need more manpower, just tell Ivana. She will give you everything that you will need. Alaric reminded him. After giving him a few more instructions, Alaric headed inside the mansion to make his own preparations. He wanted to be presentable by the time the guests arrived. Evening came and the highly anticipated guests showed up. They were the military officers of the Imperial Army. Dressed in his formal clothes, Alaric welcomed them at the entrance of the banquet venue. Welcome, everyone. I know you are tired from the journey, so I had everyone prepare a banquet for you, so that you can get to relax with some food and entertainment. Alaric greeted the Imperial Army commanders. All of them were transcendent knights. Some were already renowned warriors whose names were etched in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard. But there were also a few of them who weren't in the leaderboard. I don't know any of these people. They must be the experts secretly nurtured by His Majesty. He could tell that these unknown experts were strong. If they had chosen to publicize their strength, they would be in the top 20 in the leaderboard. There was one particular warrior who stood out from them all. It was an old warrior with a gnarly scar on his neck. He looked incredibly intimidating and he always wore a serious expression, making him seem unapproachable. At this moment, Redden suddenly approached him and whispered into his ear. Your Highness, that old man is the commander of the Dragon Guards. Most people don't know him. Even the high-ranking aristocrats don't know anything about him. The public recognizes Lord Kristen Evander as the strongest transcendent in all of Estania, but in truth, it's that man. His name is Tristan Stonefist. Stonefist? Alaric raised an eyebrow. He hadn't heard of a prominent household that carried this name. Redden nodded, his face looking grim. That's right. His Majesty bestowed him this surname because Commander Tristan's fists literally hit like a stone. Oh? Really now? Alaric was intrigued by this. He used his appraisal on Tristan and was left stunned by the latter's attributes. Insane. I thought Galaner or Sekus was the strongest transcendent, but this guy, I think the three of them are on the same level. Noticing his gaze, Tristan glanced in his direction. When he realized that it was Alaric who was looking at him, Tristan nodded respectfully. Alaric returned the gesture with a nod of his own. This guy is also an impressive warrior. It seems like I have underestimated the depth of Estania. To think that there are hidden experts like this man. The banquet program began after greeting the guests. Various local performers performed on the stage. While the performances were ongoing, Alaric interacted with the Imperial Army commanders, including Tristan. He wanted to befriend these people since he might have some dealings with them in the future. To his surprise, he found out that Tristan was friendlier than he seemed. The old warrior became more talkative with the influence of alcohol. He even joked about Redden, who was the former deputy commander of the Dragon Guards. Your Highness, let me tell you, when Redden was still young, Commander, stop exposing my dark past. Redden could only facepalm himself in embarrassment. The banquet hall was filled with laughter. Chapter 535 Suddenly fulfilling all the requirements for advancement. Chapter 535 Suddenly fulfilling all the requirements for advancement. The next day, Alaric woke up with a terrible headache. What happened? He grabbed his head as he slowly sat up straight. He looked around and realized that he was inside his room still wearing the formal clothes he wore last night. I remember chatting and drinking with the commanders of the Imperial Army. Recalling what had happened last night, he shook his head with a wry smile. He had forgotten how many bottles of alcohol he had drunk since he stopped counting after the 20th bottle. Knock, knock, knock. Your Highness, it's me. I brought your hungover soup. Matilda's voice echoed from outside the room. Hearing this, Alaric rubbed his eyes and said, Come inside and bring it here. Creak. Matilda, dressed in her working uniform, stepped inside. She pushed a cart with a bowl of soup. Alaric could already smell the refreshing aroma of the soup. From its scent, he recognized a few herbs that aid in digestion and headaches. Did you make this? He asked as he took the bowl from the tray cart. Matilda shook her head and replied, Celine made the soup, Your Highness. Celine. Alaric didn't expect this. Matilda thought that he was suspicious of the soup, so she explained. Don't worry, Your Highness. I already tasted the soup. I assure you that it's safe to consume. Alaric shook his head and chuckled. I'm not worried about that. His vitality was already at maximum, so most poisons wouldn't work on him. He would probably feel a little lightheaded, but that would be it. Alaric took a spoonful of soup to his mouth. His mind cleared up as the warm soup touched his tongue. Not bad, he remarked. Matilda smiled at his words. What happened to our guests? Did you bring them to their accommodations? Alaric asked. He remembered being escorted by Matilda and Celine during the banquet, but he didn't know what happened to the guest after he left. The guests were escorted safely to their rooms, Your Highness. Some of them had already woken up and they are now being informed about the recent affairs in Midgard. Matilda replied. I see. Alaric was pleased to hear this. The Emperor had definitely sent his most capable subordinates to take over Midgard. They attended the banquet last night, but they were already in work mode the next morning. After drinking the hungover soup, Alaric went to the bathroom to take a bath. He then dried himself up and changed into a set of training clothes. He planned to do his daily exercises to clear out all the alcohol from his body. On his way to the training ground, he encountered Celine, who was just outside the mansion's main door. Greetings, Your Highness. The female knight greeted him with a respectful bow. Alaric nodded with a smile. The soup you made was delicious. Can you make the same one for me tomorrow? Celine was happy to hear his praise. With a smile, she nodded her head. I obey your commands. All right, I'm off to do my training. Alaric waved his hand and walked away, but he realized that Celine was following him, so he stopped and looked at her questioningly. The female knight quickly explained herself. Miss Ivana is worried about Your Highness, so she asked me to take care of you today. Is that so? After knowing the reason, Alaric didn't stop her anymore. He headed straight to the training ground to perform his daily exercises. While he was doing his exercises, Celine quietly watched him, admiring his discipline and dedication to improve. A few hours later, when Alaric was about to complete half of his exercises, a notification popped up in front of him. Mission complete. Rewards, 200 battle points, 20 EXP, 20 stat points. You have reached the requirements for your next advancement. Do you want to use 25,000 battle points to advance? Yes. No. How is this possible? Did His Majesty already select a new ruler for Harun? That was fast. He thought that there would be a long process for choosing the next ruler of Harun. What happened, Your Highness? Is there something wrong? Celine quickly rushed to his side when she saw him suddenly stop in the middle of his exercises. She was already familiar with his routine, so she knew how many repetitions he usually did. Her voice interrupted his thoughts. Shaking his head, Alaric gestured with his hand. I'm fine. Celine, bring all the available transcendent knights here. I think I'm about to advance, he said with a serious voice. Hearing this, Celine was dumbfounded, her eyes widening. His Highness is about to advance? She was so shocked that it took her a few seconds before she could respond. Yes, Your Highness. I will bring everyone here. Alaric was already a transcendent knight. He was even recognized as one of the strongest in all of Estania. The people considered him a monstrous genius. She agreed with the people, but she never thought that he would advance this early. Does this mean that His Highness will soon become a venerable? She was scared of her own thoughts. A 20-year-old venerable? She never heard of anyone else who had stepped into that realm at that age. Unable to calm herself, she hastily left the training ground. Soon, she delivered the news to the relevant people. Everyone was astounded when they heard her words. No one could have guessed that this day would come so quickly. Galanor, Sekus, and all the available transcendent knights hurried to the training ground, their faces filled with a mixture of emotions. By the time they arrived, they saw Alaric standing in the middle of the training ground. His eyes were shut tight as if he was deeply contemplating something. No one dared to say a word, afraid that they would disturb him. They believed that he was in the middle of an enlightenment, so they all remained quiet. After some time, Alaric opened his eyes. Now that everyone is here, I will leave my safety in your hands. He smiled faintly. Chapter 536 Mythical Knight. Chapter 536 Mythical Knight. Please be assured, Your Highness, we will not allow even a fly to get close to you. The one who spoke was Tristan Stonefist, the commander of the Dragon Guards. Alaric smiled at his words. He then closed his eyes and focused his attention on absorbing mana. Everyone quietly watched as the energy from the surroundings slowly converged on the training ground with Alaric at the epicenter. As more mana congregated around him, the supposed shapeless and colorless energy gradually became visible to the naked eye. It started as wisps of pale blue that, little by little, turned increasingly denser as the seconds passed by. The wisps of pale blue energy turned into a thicker hue of blue. A soft sigh was heard among the crowd of onlookers. This is the first time I am witnessing someone advancing to the realm of venerables. What an amazing phenomenon! I once read in a book that a new venerable will be born when a blue tornado hits. The mana around His Highness is slowly turning into a tornado. Alaric was absorbing mana so fast that the dense energy gathered around him violently twisted and turned like a tornado. At this moment, Ivana together with a group of people arrived, their faces flickering with shock. What is going on here? Earlier, the elven princess was doing administrative tasks when Matilda told her about the unusual phenomenon. At that time, she thought that Matilda was just messing with her. But when she looked through the window and saw the waves of mana slowly taking shape, she immediately recognized it. She had seen something similar happen in the Greenwood Kingdom when Lucas Silversword advanced to become a mythical knight. It was an unforgettable moment for her and the elves who had witnessed that scene. Galliner made a shushing gesture and pointed somewhere. Ivana raised an eyebrow and followed the direction he pointed. She gasped. It was Alaric. Ah! She heard Matilda gasping behind her. More and more people came to see what was going on. But Galliner and the others didn't allow the irrelevant people to get near the training ground. At the 30-minute mark, the energy around Alaric turned a shade darker. The waves of dark blue mana twisted vigorously, causing fearsome winds to strike the training ground. Everyone put their arms in front of them to shield their eyes from the dust. What is happening? Why is the mana tornado turning dark blue? Someone from the crowd asked with a look of confusion and surprise. There is no need to be alarmed, everyone. A calm voice drifted into their ears. Hearing this, everyone in the training ground turned their heads and realized that it was Sekus who had spoken. Do you know something, Sir Sekus? Sekus kept his eyes on Alaric as he replied. Light blue energy represents the birth of a normal mythical knight. Blue represents a slightly more powerful one, and dark blue energy represents an absolute mythical knight. This means that once His Highness completes his breakthrough, his power will soar higher than that of other mythical knights. They wondered how he knew such information, but no one dared to ask him to explain. While everyone was digesting his words, another change occurred. The violently twisting dark blue tornado suddenly stopped spinning. The waves of dark blue mana also darkened even further and turned purple. The calm purple energy made everyone feel refreshed. A few knight apprentices who were nearby even advanced to the night realm due to the dense amount of mana that gathered in the area. Looking at the calm purple energy that enveloped Alaric, someone could no longer hold back their curiosity. Do you know anything about this, Sir Sekus? The crowd looked at Sekus. To their disbelief, the usually calm man now revealed a look of surprise. Sekus took a deep breath to calm himself. Purple energy. I thought it was a myth. It means a perfect advancement. Once His Highness completely absorbs all the energy that he needs, his strength will surpass that of the renowned venerables we all know. What? Is that even possible? Oh my Aru! A few more hours trickled by and the dense wave of mana gradually dispersed. The purple energy around Alaric slowly disappeared, as if everything that they had seen earlier was nothing more than an illusion. In the next moment, an overwhelming pressure suddenly descended upon them. It was as if gravity had multiplied significantly. The sudden pressure forced the weaker ones to kneel. The stronger warriors managed to stand on their feet, while only the elite knights and above remained unaffected. When Alaric opened his eyes, the overwhelming pressure immediately vanished. I'm sorry about that. I still can't control my own power, he apologetically said when he noticed the situation. Hearing his voice, the crowd regained clarity. Your Highness! Congratulations, Lord Venerable! Sekus bowed deeply. Congratulations to the new Venerable, Lord Venerable. Everyone congratulated Alaric, bowing their heads deeply. Looking at the respectful crowd, Alaric smiled faintly. It's thanks to everyone's efforts that I managed to safely advance. We must prepare a grand banquet to celebrate my advancement. That is a very good idea, Lord Venerable. We will arrange it immediately. Lord Venerable is wise. Alaric chuckled in amusement. He could feel the subtle change in everyone's attitude. They were now more respectful and careful with their choice of words. Good. You may all leave to prepare for the banquet. He gestured with his hand. Hearing this, everyone bowed and quickly left after bidding him farewell. The only ones who remained were a few people. Ivana looked at the dashing young man. Should I call you Lord Venerable now? She jokingly said. Alaric smiled at her. Your father wouldn't dare reject if I proposed for marriage now. Ivana didn't expect him to bring up this topic when there were still people around. Her face reddened, but she pretended to be unaffected. I still have to help with the arrangements for the banquet, so let's continue this later. She turned around and left with Matilda. Alaric chuckled as he watched her escape. You have been promoted to the mythical night realm. A notification popped up in front of him. Chapter 537 New Domain. Chapter 537 New Domain. After everyone left, Alaric opened the system screen to check how much he had progressed after his advancement. Alaric Silversword, Mythical Knight EXP. 0/10,000. Potential SSS. Traits, Swordsmanship, L. Ruthless Slaughterer SS. Shield Mastery, SS. Supreme Regeneration, S. Horseback Riding A. Close Combat A, Sixth Sense A, Appraisals B, Hunting C, Tracking C, Monster Affinity C, Mana Gathering C, Archery D, Strength 500, 1100, Stamina 500, 1100, Agility 500, 1100, Vitality 500, 1100, Endurance 500, 1100, Mana 500, 1100, Battle Points 0, Stat Points 0. Requirements for the next advancement: 10,000 EXP, 1,500 in all attributes, and 100,000 battle points. Alaric was astounded by the big leap in his attributes. All his stats had more than doubled. He didn't feel it earlier, but upon seeing his 4-digit attributes, Alaric realized that he had become a formidable expert. This makes me stronger than all the venerables I know of, with the exception of His Majesty. Shaking his head, Alaric closed the system screen and looked at the palms of his hands. He channeled a tiny bit of his mana into his palms. In just half a second, he conjured a near-perfect snowflake that emitted a chill that caused the temperature around him to drop significantly. A tiny snowflake like this has the power to freeze the air. He could see steam coming from the air around him. The heat from the sun and the freezing power of the snowflake created this effect. Alaric was amazed by his power. He hadn't even activated his ice domain. This was simply him conjuring a snowflake using his mana. If I were to activate my domain, I might freeze the entire training ground, he thought to himself. After becoming a venerable, his affinity with the ice element received a significant boost. He could now freely interact with the element like it was a part of him. However, this wasn't the only thing that he had comprehended during his advancement. When he was enveloped by that purple energy earlier, he had learned another domain. Recalling that sensation, Alaric tried to interact with this element by injecting mana into the air. My affinity over this element is still weak, so I need more time and mana to make it listen to my orders. Unlike the ice element, which he had full control of, he still hadn't fully grasped the second element. It was like an unruly beast, unwilling to listen to his commands. While he was interacting with the element using his mana, he could sense that it was rejecting his summons. Alaric increased his mana output and tried to coax it. It feels like I'm coaxing a child by giving it a box of candies. He smiled wryly. Suddenly, the stubborn element finally relented under his patient communication. In that moment, a shapeless black void appeared on top of his palm. It was just the size of a ring, but the immense pressure it exuded made Alaric's chest heavy. His face was covered in sweat as he struggled to control this volatile power. Driven by his curiosity, he flicked his hand and sent this small and shapeless black void towards a pile of steel swords. When the black void touched the steel swords, it suddenly released a strong suction power, strong enough to pull the heavy objects around it. The steel swords and all the training equipment were sucked into the void, but some parts of these items couldn't get through and were torn into tiny fragments. Alaric watched this scene with disbelief. It was only a small fragment of the element, but it could actually bring about such devastating power. What kind of godly element is this? He couldn't tell, and he couldn't recall a similar thing being recorded in the books he had read. Let's just call it the destruction element. Now he wondered what would happen if he were to summon the destruction domain. Just thinking about it made him feel a chill. Even with my current power, I don't think I can control that kind of domain. He felt that he would be destroyed by the element if he were to recklessly summon the destruction domain. Shaking his head, Alaric left the training ground. Now that the war was over, he had plenty of time to train with the new domain. Later that day, an evening banquet was held in the grandest venue in all of Midgard. All the high-ranking military officers of Estania stationed in the city were invited. There were also local residents with high status who were invited to the event. At first, the residents who received the invitation just sneered, but when they heard that the banquet was hosted to celebrate the birth of a venerable, they quickly changed their minds. The banquet hadn't even begun, but a large crowd had already gathered at the venue. Everyone was dressed in their best attire to show their respect to the celebrant. At this moment, an old man in a wheelchair arrived at the venue. His arrival attracted everyone's attention since he was escorted by 2 imposing warriors. Venerable Ignatius. Lord Venerable. Greetings, Lord Venerable. The feeble old man turned out to be Ignatius, who was left terribly wounded during the fight against Ramondon. The once spirited Venerable looked like he had aged by a decade, but there was no sadness in his face. Ignatius was smiling as he waved at the people who came to greet him. Relax, all of you. There is no need to make a fuss. The Venerable was visibly in a good mood. Suddenly, he noticed a beautiful elf wearing a purple dress approaching him. Thank you for coming here to celebrate with us, Lord Venerable. Ivana smiled as she bowed to the old man. Ignatius recognized this woman. He knew that she was Alaric's bride-to-be, so he responded to her amicably. How could I miss such a grand occasion? The two exchanged pleasantries before Ivana volunteered to push his wheelchair. However, Ignatius tactfully declined her offer. If it were before, he would have already agreed, but Ivana had a different status now. She would soon become the wife of the youngest venerable in the history of Estania. Chapter 538 Ignatius attends the banquet. Chapter 538 Ignatius attends the banquet. Alaric later arrived just a few minutes before the banquet began. He first greeted Ignatius, who attended the celebration despite not being in perfect condition. You didn't have to come in person, Lord Venerable. You are still not in the right condition to move around. Alaric let out a sigh. The old man might look fine now, but he had almost died during his fight with Ramondan. If Sikas was even a second late at that time, he would have perished. Haha! How could I not attend this event? You don't have to worry about me, Alaric. I am Ignatius Firecrest. This kind of injury is nothing to me. He boasted with a grin. Alaric could only smile helplessly at the stubborn old man. Your presence here makes this banquet even more special. Ignatius secretly observed Alaric as their conversation continued. He could sense the immense mana inside the young warrior's body. Alaric might have intentionally concealed his power, but Ignatius could still subtly sense the power he was hiding. To think that he would have such depth when he just broke through. His strength had already surpassed mine. He smiled bitterly. He was recognized as a genius of his generation, but Alaric was just on another level. He was a prodigy who had never been seen in history. While they were talking, they noticed a group of people walking towards them. Leading this group was the commander of the Dragon Guards, Tristan Stonefist. Greetings to the two venerables. Tristan lowered his head. The warriors behind him also bowed respectfully while greeting them. Oh, Lord Tristan. I hope you are enjoying the banquet. Alaric nodded at the man. This was Redden's former superior and also the current strongest transcendent knight of Estania. Befriending him might bring him some unexpected rewards, so he remained polite to Tristan. I certainly am excited to attend this event. It was an honor to witness your advancement. Lord Venerable, I will never forget that moment. Tristan responded with an uncharacteristic smile. Alaric chuckled and responded politely. More and more people came to speak with him. Alaric replied to them one by one, but he had to excuse himself when he noticed that Ignatius was starting to get bored. Seeing this, Alaric immediately instructed his subordinates to let the performers start with their performances. Soon, the skilled performers who were invited to showcase their talents started their performances. The crowd's enthusiasm was ignited. Even Ignatius was impressed with the performances. Alaric chatted briefly with the old venerable before he excused himself. There were other guests in attendance, so he couldn't stay with Ignatius for long. Alaric busied himself the entire night. He chatted with the guests and clinked glasses with them, remaining polite the entire time. He didn't make them feel uncomfortable. At this moment, a group of young warriors had gathered in the outermost corner of the venue. They were staring at Alaric with reverence and respect. His Highness has become a dragon. He now stands on the same level as the absolute experts of the continent. Rasmus was filled with pride as he looked at Alaric's imposing figure. He had been with Alaric since he was still an unknown young warrior. He had watched him grow step by step into who he was now. You should give up, Aaliyah. I know you like the Lord Venerable, but there is a huge gap between you two. Wolf, the insensitive idiot, spoke. He is the Prince of Estania and a mythical knight with unparalleled strength. You, on the other hand, are just a knight and a subordinate warrior of House Silversword. As soon as he said this, he felt a chill running down his spine. He noticed the cold-faced Aaliyah staring at him deeply. She took a deep breath, as if suppressing her rampaging emotions. She snorted, turned around, and left with heavy strides. Watching her leave, Wolf realized that he had said something wrong. I think I pissed her off. Pa! Rasmus smacked the back of his head and scolded him. What were you thinking, you dumbass? You were always the smartest in the group, so why did you have to say such nonsense? Ow! Wolf scratched his head. I shouldn't have said that. I will go and apologize to her. He was about to leave, but Rasmus grabbed his shoulder. Just leave her be. I think she would rather be alone now than hear your apology. Hearing this, Wolf sighed softly. Renanti and a few of his friends gave him a pat on his shoulder. You should properly apologize, Wolf. That wasn't a cool thing to say. Reminded Renanti, the big brother of the group. I know. Aaliyah stepped out of the venue while trying to keep a straight face. She thought that she had hidden it well, but even a kid like Wolf noticed her feelings for Alaric. She felt a mixture of embarrassment and anger. Miss Aaliyah, what are you doing out here? Shouldn't you be inside with the other guests? A voice drifted into her ears. Turning her head, Aaliyah realized that it was Matilda. the Veronican woman who had recently become Alaric's assistant. Aaliyah had mixed feelings about her. She was envious that Matilda could stay close to Alaric. She was also annoyed that a new subordinate like her could become Alaric's assistant. With an expressionless face, Aaliyah replied, "I just wanted to get some fresh air." Matilda couldn't put her finger on it, but she could sense that Aaliyah didn't like her. "I see. Please excuse me then." She politely excused herself and walked away. "Hold on," Aaliyah called out to her. Raising an eyebrow, Matilda turned around and asked, "May I help you with something?" Aaliyah opened her mouth, but she seemed hesitant to say it. "Never mind. You can go." Without waiting for Matilda's response, Aaliyah left. Matilda squinted her eyes as she mumbled, "I think I understand now." Meanwhile, Aaliyah found herself standing beside the man-made pond near the banquet hall. From the clear water, she saw a reflection of herself. She looked incredibly beautiful on one side of her face, but the other side sported a gruesome burn wound. "You are nothing but an ugly toad. How dare you have feelings for someone like him?" Chapter 539, Renanti's Secret Feelings. Chapter 539, Renanti's Secret Feelings. At this moment, Aaliyah suddenly heard a series of footsteps behind her. Her expression cooled down as she emotionlessly turned around. "I was worried about you, so I came to find you." It was Renanti. A flicker of suspicion flashed in her eyes. "I'm fine. I just need to get some fresh air." She recognized Renanti as one of the most skilled warriors in their batch. He wasn't as talented as Wolf, but he was more disciplined and hardworking. Just like her, he was also a team leader who commanded 20 warriors. Seeing her guarded look, Renanti took a step back. "Is that so?" The two became quiet, so Renanti quickly spoke to remove the awkward atmosphere. "Don't mind what Wolf said earlier. He might be a knight, but he is still just a kid." Aaliyah stared deeply at him. "Are you that concerned about me?" Renanti found himself flustered for a moment, but he was a steady man, so he managed to quickly calm down. "Of course. We are comrades. A small rift between the group will become a major flaw in our teamwork. I don't want our teamwork to be affected because of this issue, so I want to check on you." Aaliyah shook her head. "Don't worry. I won't let that happen. If there's nothing else, please excuse me." Without waiting for his response, she walked past him and left without looking back. Renanti turned his head and watched her lonely figure with a sigh. "I almost exposed my feelings right there." He grabbed his chest. He could sense that his heart was still beating abnormally. He didn't know when it started, but he realized recently that he liked Aaliyah. He thought that it was just an admiration for her persistent effort, but his feelings became clearer as the days went by. However, he didn't confess his feelings. He knew that Aaliyah liked another man and he didn't want to get in her way. He just silently cheered on for her, wishing that she would succeed. Aaliyah. The next day, Renanti was on guard duty with 4 other knights. It was just another standard day for him. His task was to keep watch over a district called San Remigio together with his team. Author's note: Remigio is pronounced as Remio. "Hey, I heard something from the other guys." One of his teammates suddenly spoke while beckoning them to come closer. Curious, Renanti perked his ears, but he pretended to be uninterested. "During the banquet last night, I heard that team leader Aaliyah walked out of the venue when team leader Wolf mentioned that she had feelings for the Lord Venerable." Hearing this, Renanti's eyes flashed with anger. He stepped forward and grabbed the gossiping warrior by the neck, his gaze incredibly cold. "Where did you hear that from?" "Hey, Renanti, what are you doing?" "Hey man, you might break his neck." The other knights quickly tried to separate the two. Renanti released the man, but he kept his eyes on him. "You should speak while I'm still asking nicely." The gossiping warrior stared at him with some lingering fear and anger. "Did you really have to grab my neck like that? You're killing the mood, man." With a snort, he added, "Many of our guys attended the banquet last night and they said that they saw it happen." Renanti's expression eased up, but he still warned the man. "Don't go around spreading rumors next time. If this gets leaked to the Lord Venerable, the consequences will be terrible. All of us might even be implicated. Do you understand what I mean?" Hearing this, the warrior became ashen-faced. He nodded with a serious expression. "Thank you for your warning, Sir Renanti." Renanti patted the man's shoulder. "Just be careful with what you say." "I understand." That minor conflict didn't interrupt their task. Everyone in the team was also smart enough not to open up the topic. Renanti let out a sigh. "I hope Aaliyah won't be affected by this." Meanwhile, Alaric was completely unaware of the little issues happening between his subordinates. He was immersed in understanding the destruction element. He gathered many books from the local libraries, hoping to get any information that would help him understand the element better. However, he didn't find any related material. Most of the books he had gathered only discussed the basic elements like fire, water, wind, and earth. There were also books that briefly explored the rarer elements like lightning, gravity, and space, but there was nothing about the destruction element. Alaric closed the last book and leaned on his seat with a deep sigh. It looks like I have to wait until I return to North Pine Town. If I can't find anything in the town, I will have to ask Giovanni and Leonard for help. Lord Venerable, do you want me to massage your back? An enchanting voice drifted into his ears. He turned his head and saw Matilda smiling at him. He waved his hand and shook his head. I'm fine, but you can help me with another thing. Just give me the word, Lord Venerable. I will do anything for you. Matilda's words were filled with hidden meanings, but Alaric remained calm in the face of her temptations. After becoming a mythical knight, he had become immune to illusions and seductions. Even Matilda's integrated monster trait, the lustful cauldron, could no longer affect his mind. Find me more books about unique elements. It doesn't matter if they are obscure materials. Just bring them to me. Alaric calmly instructed. Matilda was inwardly disappointed, but she didn't show it on her face. She bowed her head and acknowledged his command. Your servant obeys. Alaric waved his hand indifferently. You may ask Sir Galliner to accompany you. Just tell him that it was a request from me. Matilda nodded. I understand. I will relay your words to him. Knowing that it was an important matter, she didn't linger and left right away. After she left, Alaric rubbed his temples. Without study materials, understanding the destruction element will be a lot more difficult. Chapter 540 Destruction Domain. Chapter 540 Destruction Domain. In Zerkith, Lucas was overseeing the reconstruction of the damaged buildings when a subordinate came to him with a letter. My lord, we received a letter from Midgard. His Highness sent it. Hearing this, Lucas stopped what he was doing and took the letter. He wondered what his son had written for him. With an expectant gaze, he removed the seal and quickly read the message. The first line was just the usual greeting, so he didn't have much of a reaction. But upon reading the second paragraph, his eyes suddenly widened. What? There's no way this is true. He was in disbelief. In his letter, Alaric wrote that he had advanced and stepped into the realm of venerables. He even boasted about mastering a second domain. Lucas's first thought was that Alaric was messing with him, but there was this anticipation in his heart, hoping that it was real. Bring Sherwin here, Lucas instructed the messenger. Right away, my lord. While he was waiting for Sherwin, Lucas fell into deep thought. Alaric is definitely strong compared to other transcendent knights, but he had only advanced to that realm several months ago. It then occurred to him. From what I remember, Alaric has already mastered the ice domain. His advancement might not be fake news after all. He let out a smile. A quarter of an hour later, Sherwin finally arrived. My lord, do you have any instructions for me? Looking at the old transcendent knight, Lucas nodded. Yes, I want you to confirm something for me. You will understand if you read this. He didn't bother to explain and just handed him the letter he received from Alaric. Confused, Sherwin took the letter and carefully read the message. A moment later, he showed the same reaction that Lucas had earlier. This? Lucas smiled wryly while shaking his head. I'm not even sure if this is true, so I want you to head there and confirm it with your own eyes. Sherwin was quick to regain composure. He nodded to acknowledge the command. Your subordinate understands. Good. You may go. Lucas waved his hand. He added, the fewer people he brought, the faster the journey would be. Sherwin understood his intentions. I will select our fastest riders to follow me. You can rest assured, my lord. We will bring you the information in less than 10 days. All right, I will leave it to you. Other than Lucas, Leonard, Giovanni, and even the Emperor received the same message. Just like Lucas, Giovanni couldn't believe it either. He thought that Alaric was intentionally messing with him in his boredom. On the other hand, the Crown Prince and the Emperor thought differently. The Crown Prince found it surprising, but he believed the content of the message to be true. Meanwhile, the Emperor seemed to have expected it. He just chuckled in amusement when he got Alaric's letter. Another week went by in a flash. In the past 7 days, Alaric's entire focus was on searching for materials about the destruction element. He sent Matilda and a few others to look for books, but they weren't able to find what he was looking for. With no luck from the search, Alaric tried to understand the element by himself. He interacted with it every day using his mana as if to familiarize himself with it. However, it was still as stubborn as before, refusing to listen to his orders. At this moment, Alaric was on a mountain a few miles from Midgard. He came here for the sole purpose of training his control over the new element. His face was covered in sweat as he conjured a black void on top of his palm. It was a small, only the size of a ring, but the pressure coming from it was so intense that it caused the air to violently fluctuate. Now, let's summon the destruction domain. With a grim look, Alaric lifted his left hand. while keeping his control over the black void on his right. He injected mana into his left hand to summon a second black void. Small, dark motes of light circled on top of his left palm and slowly formed another black void. Alaric could feel his mana being rapidly drained. With a snort, he pushed both palms together to merge the two black voids, but like opposing forces, the two voids seemed to reject each other. Sweat trickled down Alaric's face. He could feel a burning pain in his palms, as if he were directly holding the sun. The pain was unbearable, but he pushed through with gritted teeth. In the next moment, the two voids finally merged and multiplied in size. Alaric's surroundings reacted with the black void. Small rifts started to appear around him, with each rift seemingly giving one a look at the boundless universe. With a twist of his fingers, Alaric controlled these rifts. When the nearby trees touched the rifts, they were quickly torn into shreds. Seeing that he had destroyed the greenery, Alaric immediately retracted the domain. He had only unleashed the destruction domain for a few seconds, but it had destroyed a huge portion of the nearby trees. So powerful. The only problem is that it consumes a huge chunk of my mana every second. With my current mana pool, I think I can control the destruction domain for about a minute. He could only use it for a limited time, but with the level of destruction it could bring, he believed that he could kill an army composed of 100,000 soldiers in just half a minute. I wonder how effective this domain will be against other venerables. He beamed, unable to contain his excitement. Suddenly, he felt a familiar presence approaching from a distance. He turned his head and saw Galliner rushing towards him on his horse. Alaric furrowed his eyebrows and mumbled to himself. Did something happen while I was gone? Chapter 541 Sherwin's Shock. Chapter 541 Sherwin's Shock. Galliner pulled the reins of his horse and made it stop a few meters from him. He then jumped off his horse and bowed deeply. Lord Venerable, sorry for disturbing your training. Alaric waved his hand indifferently and asked, what happened for you to come here so urgently? Sir Sherwin has come with 10 warriors. I believe they came here to confirm your advancement. Galliner replied. Hearing this, Alaric was taken aback. I see. It looks like Dad didn't believe the message I sent. He chuckled in amusement, but he couldn't blame Lucas's reaction. Even Alaric couldn't believe the speed of his breakthrough. We can't let our guests wait for long. Let's go see them. Alaric made a whistling sound to call a disaster-grade war horse. He got this horse from an enemy general and took it as his own. After jumping onto his horse, he gestured to Galliner. Hiya! Alaric squeezed his legs, urging the horse to go. With a mighty gallop, the war horse moved like the wind. They were only a few miles away from the city, so it didn't take them much time to get there. At the main gate, Alaric spotted Sherwin standing in the shade together with a few warriors. They were in the middle of a conversation, but they soon stopped when they noticed him approaching. Alaric pulled the reins, signaling the horse to a halt. The trained beast understood its rider's intentions. It slowed down before eventually stopping just right in front of Sherwin's group. Your Highness! Sherwin immediately brought his men to greet him. Alaric smiled faintly. You didn't have to wait for me here, Sir Sherwin. You should have waited somewhere more comfortable instead of standing under this sweltering weather. Sherwin observed Alaric, and the first thing he discovered was the big change in his aura. Alaric didn't intentionally reveal his aura, but Sherwin could feel this vigorous energy coming from him. He had only feel this kind of energy from Lucas. So it's true. He realized that the content of the letter was true. Alaric had truly become a mythical knight. After this realization, Sherwin cautiously responded. To tell your Highness the truth, we came here to confirm your advancement. Alaric chuckled, seemingly unbothered by his scrutiny. You must have it hard, Sir Sherwin. Sometimes my father can be very particular about my matters. I should have been more specific when I wrote that letter. Alaric didn't actively confirm it, but Sherwin was smart enough to understand that it was a silent confirmation. I'm all right, Lord Venerable. He quickly changed the way he was addressing Alaric. Congratulations on your advancement, he added. Sherwin's subordinates were stunned, but they quickly congratulated Alaric. Congratulations, Lord Venerable. Alaric beamed at them. Let's talk somewhere more comfortable. You guys must be hungry too from that long trip. Follow me. I will bring you to my mansion. We will follow your arrangements, Lord Venerable. Sherwin and his subordinates nodded obediently. Alaric turned his head and sent a look to the gate guards. Understanding his message, the guards quickly made the crowd steer clear of the road. The residents and the merchants who were queuing up to enter the city didn't dare make a sound of complaints. Alaric's face had already been plastered all over the city ever since he became a mythical knight. Almost everyone in Midgard could recognize him now, even the most clueless children. Under the people's nervous gazes, Alaric led everyone to enter the city. The broken walls and buildings of the city had mostly been repaired. There were still some ongoing constructions, But the city was already recovering from the damage caused by the war. The once gloomy residents now had hopeful smiles on their faces, as if they were looking forward to their future. However, there were still some residents who openly showed their anger at the Estanian warriors. To these people, Alaric didn't bother to waste his energy on them. Their hatred was natural and he didn't blame them for it. In 2 months' time, Midgard will be back on its feet. You have opened my eyes with this quick recovery progress, Lord Venerable. Sherwin praised when he saw the situation of the city. Alaric chuckled while shaking his head. I didn't do it on my own. I'm just lucky to have a group of talented individuals helping me manage the city. The two exchanged words on the way. Sherwin was an eloquent man despite coming from a warrior household. If Alaric didn't know better, he would have thought that the old man was from an aristocratic background. Soon they arrived at the mansion. Alaric immediately instructed the servants to prepare food and refreshments for Sherwin's group. He took them to his study to have a proper conversation with Sherwin. You may all sit. Alaric gestured with his hand. Sherwin and his subordinates immediately took their seats. I'm not delaying your task for keeping you here, am I? Alaric smiled faintly while looking at Sherwin. The old transcendent knight shook his head. Not at all, Lord Venerable. I already asked one of my subordinates to write a letter to Lord Lucas. He should have sent the letter by now. Knowing that he would have to stay for a while, Sherwin instructed a subordinate to send the confirmation letter to Lucas. Alaric squinted his eyes while looking at the old warrior with a pleased smile. How is the situation in Zerkith? He asked, changing the topic. The situation in Zerkith has mostly stabilized thanks to his lordship's leadership. We received enough construction materials from other cities, so we have already started working on the renovations. Sherwin gave him a detailed answer, even citing his own opinions on some matters. That's good to hear. By the way, can you help me find books related to unique elements in Zerkith? Alaric silently hoped that he could find the book he was looking for in Zerkith. Sherwin nodded without hesitation. I will send a separate letter to our people in Zerkith. Can you tell me more about the kind of book you are looking for? Chapter 542 Update on Marco Harold's Condition. Chapter 542 Update on Marco Harold's Condition. Alaric explained the nature of the destruction element. I haven't heard of that element, but I will have my subordinates look for books on rare elements. Perhaps we might get lucky. Sherwin didn't promise him anything. Finding books explaining the nature of rare elements like gravity or space was hard to come by. As for the one that Alaric was searching for, he hadn't even heard of it. That will be great. Alaric didn't pressure him. A moment later, the servants finally arrived, bringing them food and refreshments. With many people around, Alaric decided to talk about something more casual like what his father had been busy doing in Zerkith. Sherwin didn't hide things from him. The old transcendent knight responded enthusiastically. The conversation became more relaxed and Alaric even interacted with Sherwin's subordinates. Meanwhile, in the newly renovated city hall, Ivana was teaching Tristan and a few others about the administrative tasks that they would have to deal with. Tristan was having trouble keeping up with the materials. Fortunately, the people he brought were knowledgeable scholars, so they quickly grasped everything that was taught to them. Do you have any questions for me? Ivana looked at her students. Tristan was about to speak, but he quickly shut his mouth when he saw Ivana's stern gaze. This girl was the wife-to-be of Alaric, so he didn't want to carelessly offend her. Never mind. I'll just ask the others later to review with me. Since you have no questions, I will let you handle today's duties. I will watch your performance closely, but I will not interfere unless necessary. Ivana felt that they were ready for the job. Although Tristan was a bit behind in terms of comprehensive knowledge, he wasn't completely clueless with his tasks. He just needed some more time to comprehend the more complicated matters. We will try our best, Miss Ivana. All right, you may begin. Ivana smiled faintly as she handed them the paperwork that they had to handle for the day. Matilda, who was observing from the sidelines, walked towards her and whispered into her ear. Will they be all right, miss? Ivana chuckled. We already taught them everything they need to learn. They just need to familiarize themselves more with the tasks. After a few more days, they will be ready to do things on their own. You have done well, Mississippi. Matilda praised her with a smile. Ivana was pleased, but she didn't show it on her face. I learned from the best, she replied. Alaric was still chatting with Sherwin and his subordinates when they heard a series of knocks on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Alaric raised an eyebrow. You may come in. Creak. A young female doctor entered the study. She noticed that Alaric was entertaining his guests, but the situation was urgent, so she could only interrupt them. She bowed her head. I apologize for interrupting your discussion, Lord Venerable. Lifting her head, she spoke in a serious voice. Lord Marco Harold has regained consciousness, but there seems to be something wrong with his energy core. Alaric was surprised. Marco had been unconscious after his battle against Loras. He was gravely wounded at that time, and many even thought that he wouldn't make it. However, with his tenacity and the help of the skilled medical practitioners, he miraculously survived. He's awake. Yes, Lord Venerable. You were the first person he wanted to meet when he woke up. The female doctor nodded. Alaric hesitated for a moment. Seeing this, Sherwin quickly suggested as he rose to his feet. Why don't we head there together, Lord Venerable? I would like to visit Lord Marco to check on his condition. Sherwin was indeed a smart guy. He realized that Alaric was having trouble making a decision since he was still chatting with them, so Sherwin brought up the idea of visiting Marco together. With a nod of his head, Alaric replied, "All right, let's visit him together. Doctor, please lead the way." "Yes, Lord Venerable." The clinic was quite far from the mansion, so they had to take the carriage. After about half an hour of traveling, they arrived in front of a newly renovated clinic. There was a team of warriors guarding the entrance, and they immediately greeted Alaric's group. "Greetings, Lord Venerable." Alaric waved his hand indifferently. "There is no need for formalities. You may return to your posts." Hearing this, the warriors didn't linger and quickly went back to their stations to continue their guard duties. The female doctor brought them to Marco's ward, which was located on the topmost floor of the clinic. When they got there, a group of doctors and nurses were busy doing a checkup on Marco. "Lord Venerable." The medical practitioners were shocked to see him. "Don't mind me. Just do your checkup." Alaric gestured at them to continue. The doctors and nurses nervously resumed their tasks. With a big shot like Alaric around, they felt like they were sitting on pins and needles. While they were doing a full-body checkup on Marco, Alaric observed the latter's complexion. Marco had visibly thinned out. His face looked pale and he had a weary look in his eyes. "I'm glad to see him awake, but Lord Marco doesn't seem to be in good shape." Sherwin, who was standing next to him, sighed emotionally. Marco Harold was recognized as one of the strongest transcendent knights in all of Estania, but the same warrior was now lying on a hospital bed, looking completely different than the valiant man that he was before. "Lord Marco, your body has become fragile with the loss of your muscles, but with the right." The doctors gave Marco a list of food and medicine that he had to eat to recover his health. "As for your energy core, I have a bold guess, but I don't dare say anything for the time being since I am not certain yet," the oldest doctor said hesitantly. Marco furrowed his eyebrows and spoke with difficulty. "Just tell me, doctor. I'm ready to hear it." The old doctor took a deep breath before he replied. "I think your energy core is the reason for your quick muscle loss. Since it is having trouble absorbing mana due to a major crack, it is taking the energy from your body as a replacement for mana. If your energy core recovers, you will have a small chance of advancing to the next realm, but don't be excited just yet. With the kind of crack your energy core has, it will take a significant amount of resources and time before it fully recovers, so you must brace yourself." The doctor added. Chapter 543 Lucas Fights Corruption. Chapter 543 Lucas Fights Corruption. Marco was initially concerned, but when he heard the doctor's words, he was ecstatic. "You mean, I can become a mythical knight?" His voice was filled with disbelief. The old doctor smiled faintly and shook his head. "Like I said, I am still uncertain. We will only know once your energy core makes a full recovery. From my observations, it would take months or even a few years, so you must take your health seriously. Just eat more healthy food and don't forget the medicine we prescribed." "Certainly. Thank you, doctors." Marco's face was flushed with excitement. The doctors didn't linger. They didn't want to make Alaric wait for too long, so they left after bidding him farewell. After they left, Alaric went to the side of Marco's bed and pulled a chair for himself. "Lord Marco, I came here as soon as I heard that you regained consciousness." Marco wanted to sit up straight, but Alaric pushed his shoulder, stopping him from getting up. Understanding his intentions, Marco didn't force himself to get up. "Your Highness." "No, I should call you Lord Venerable now. I heard about your breakthrough from one of our guys." "Congratulations, Lord Venerable." Alaric chuckled. Marco suddenly sighed, looking somewhat regretful. "I regret not seeing that glorious moment in person. From what I heard, your advancement created an unknown phenomenon. I wish I had been there to see you that day." Alaric responded with some polite words. He also consoled the guy to make him feel better. While doing those things, he secretly used his appraisal on Marco. Marco Harold, Transcendent Knight, EXP. 4998/5000. Potential, S. Traits, Swordsmanship, SS. Close Combat, S. Bravery, S. Tenacity, S. Command, S. Strength, 480. Stamina, 469. Agility, 478. Vitality, 449. Endurance, 444. Mana, 470. The doctor wasn't speaking nonsense at all. He is indeed close to advancing. Alaric's eyes flashed with surprise. He thought that Kristen Evander would be the next to advance among the Transcendent Knights, but it seemed like Marco Harold was also close to advancement. I wondered which of them would advance first. He was filled with anticipation for the bright future of Estania. The more venerables they had, the stronger the country would become. With enough deterrence, no other nation would dare to attack them again. I heard that one would need to comprehend a domain to become a venerable. Can you tell me what kind of domain you have mastered? Marco was curious. He knew that Alaric had already mastered the ice domain. Did he master another domain when he advanced, or did he just strengthen his affinity with the ice element to upgrade his ice domain? Sherwin, who was seated next to Alaric, perked his ears. He was also curious. He had forgotten to ask Alaric about this earlier. Alaric smiled faintly and replied, I managed to increase my affinity with the ice element, but I also mastered another domain during my advancement. Hearing this, everyone inside the ward was stunned. I am now a dual domain holder. While saying this, he conjured a perfect snowflake on top of his left palm. He controlled the temperature so no one would be affected by the cold. He then lifted his right hand and conjured a miniature black void. Marco and Harold felt uneasy when he conjured the black void. They felt that it could crush them into smithereens if it touched their bodies. It was an unusual feeling, something that made them uncomfortable. I don't know its official name, but I call this the destruction element. I only discovered a few of its characteristics, and there is still more for me to learn about it. Alaric didn't hide it from them. These guys were trustworthy individuals. I understand now. No wonder you asked me to find books related to unique elements. So it was because of this. Sherwin mumbled to himself. Alaric nodded apologetically. It wasn't my intention to hide it from you, Sir Sherwin. To tell you the truth, I still find it hard to control this new element. You don't need to apologize, Lord Venerable. They chatted some more about this new domain of his, but Alaric didn't have much information about the destruction element, so he could only share what he had discovered so far. What are your plans now, Lord Marco? With your condition, it might be difficult to travel back to Estania. Alaric changed the topic. If I have to stay here to fully recover, then I will do just that. Since we have already conquered Midgard, I can just ask my family to come here if I miss them. Marco was optimistic about his future. Hearing this, Alaric admired his mentality. They chatted some more, and they only left when a doctor came to remind Marco to get more sleep. In Zerkith, Lucas was in his study going over a document. His face suddenly darkened when he saw some discrepancies in the document. Bring me the merchant in charge of buying the construction materials for this project. Lucas instructed, his voice cold. Hearing the anger in his voice, his assistant, a local scholar of Zerkith, felt uneasy. Right away, my lord. He wiped off the sweat on his face as he hurried to leave the room. After the man left, Lucas leaned on his seat with a gloomy expression. Those little bloodsuckers. Do I look like a fool to them? He could tell that there was some corruption going on. Sherwin could have handled this better. He shook his head while rubbing his temples. A moment later, the local scholar returned with a rotund, middle-aged man. My lord, I brought the person in charge of the construction materials. The scholar nervously looked at Lucas's face. The rotund, middle-aged man smiled as he bowed his head. It's a pleasure to see you, Lord Venerable. How can I be of help to you? Lucas didn't bother to exchange pleasantries with him. Come and take a look at this document. The rotund, middle-aged man felt uneasy when he sensed Lucas's mood. He took a deep breath and quietly grabbed the document. Chapter 544 Sherwin's letter arrives. Chapter 544 Sherwin's letter arrives. The rotund, middle-aged man nearly fainted when he saw what was written on the document. How did he get his hands on this information? The document contains all the materials he purchased for the construction project. However, some materials were substandard, and important components were even missing. His hands shook as fear crept into his heart. Can you tell me what this is all about, my lord? I don't understand what's going on here. He was a seasoned merchant who had experienced his fair share of corruption, but he managed to quickly compose himself. Looking at the merchant's smile, Lucas had the urge to punch his face, but he held himself back. I advise you to come clean while I'm still talking nicely with you. Otherwise, you wouldn't like what would happen next. He warned in a cold voice. The merchant squeezed out a smile as he replied. My lord, there must be a misunderstanding here. I have been in this line of work for decades, so I can guarantee the quality of work that I dash. Don't bother to explain yourself. I don't want to hear it. Lucas waved his hand while staring deeply at him. Grab him. Lucas spoke indifferently. Right after his words fell, a warrior appeared out of nowhere and pressed the merchant's shoulder, forcing him to kneel in panic. My lord, What is going on? I'm innocent. The merchant screamed, trying to attract the attention of others, hoping that Lucas would restrain himself under the public's eyes. Seeing this, Lucas sneered. All the ongoing construction projects are being investigated by my subordinates. Do you think I would allow leeches like you to pocket the money that was taxed from the citizens? The merchant's face fell upon hearing this. He thought that Lucas was just a clueless man who only knew how to fight. I will return it. I will return the money. Please release me, my lord. He pleaded with tears in his eyes. Lucas ignored his pleas and sent the warrior a look. Tie him in front of the city hall and announce his crimes to the public. Tomorrow, he will be beheaded in front of the residents. Yes, my lord. I will arrange everything. The warrior calmly acknowledged the command. Wait. I will give you all my money. I will also give you all my properties. Just spare me. The merchant clung tightly to the table's leg, refusing to let go. The warrior stomped on his hand without hesitation. Pack. Ah, they are killing people. Save me. I have been wronged. They are dash. Before he could say more, the warrior punched his nose, which knocked him out right away. Thud. The warrior bowed to Lucas. He then slung the unconscious merchant over his shoulder and left. The scholar watched all this happen without saying a word. Do you have something to say? Lucas turned his head at him. His voice pulled the scholar back to reality. With a shake of his head, the scholar forced a nervous chuckle. I have nothing to say, Lord Venerable. He is a corrupt man, so he deserves to be punished. Lucas smiled faintly. You were the one who recommended him for the job. Did you receive bribes from him? Looking at his smile, the scholar nearly pissed himself. He shook his head as he vehemently denied the accusations. No, I wouldn't dare take bribes, Lord Venerable. As an official of Haroon, I would never do something so foolish. Lucas was amused by his reaction. You will be called in for questioning later. It is part of the process, so just answer them honestly. If you are really innocent, you will not be punished. However, since you recommended that person, your pay for the next 6 months will be deducted. The scholar grimaced when he heard this. He looked like he wanted to appeal to the verdict, but he could only squeeze out an ugly smile. I accept your verdict, Lord Venerable. I will be careful when choosing people next time. Lucas waved his hand. There will be no next time. You will be sent to another workplace tomorrow, so pack your things and leave. But, Lord Venerable. Lucas glared at him, making him feel a chill in his heart. I understand. I will pack my things immediately. The scholar didn't dare dawdle and quickly gathered all his possessions into a basket. Lucas shook his head and let out a tired sigh. He was no longer in the mood to check the other documents. He stood up from his seat and walked towards the window to watch the view. He could see the beautiful garden and the man-made pond beside the mansion. The scenery and the fresh air made his mood a bit better. Knock, knock, knock. Hearing the knocks on the door, Lucas furrowed his eyebrows. What is it this time? He felt a bit annoyed, but he still went back to his seat and said, You may enter. Creak. A messenger stepped inside the room and bowed to him. Greetings, Lord Venerable. Lucas nodded and beckoned to the man, gesturing at him to come closer. What is it? The messenger took out a letter from his inner pocket and handed it carefully to Lucas. It is a letter from Sir Sherwin. Lucas's eyes lit up. He snatched the letter from the messenger and quickly removed the seal. You may sit. He motioned to the messenger to sit down. Thank you, Lord Venerable. Lucas eagerly read Sherwin's letter. The first line was a simple greeting. When he read the main body of the message, Lucas's smile deepened. He slapped the table and laughed heartily, scaring the messenger. Ha ha ha! My son has become a venerable. He has become the youngest mythical knight in history. He was proud and excited. With a beaming smile, he put down the letter and looked at the messenger. Spread the word. Let everyone know that my son, Alaric Silversword, has become a mythical knight. The messenger was stunned, but he still acknowledged the command. I obey your words. Chapter 545 Updated Daily Mission. Chapter 545 Updated Daily Mission. A few days later in Midgard, Sherwin's group didn't stay for long. They left soon after visiting Marco. As for Alaric, he kept on familiarizing himself with the destruction element. During his free time, he would read books about unique elements. This had been his schedule for the last few days. He didn't even have the time to do his daily exercises. At this moment, Alaric was about to get some rest when a notification popped up in front of him. Your daily mission has been updated. Updated daily mission. 1 hour of physical training. 1 hour of sword training. 1 hour of elemental familiarization. Rewards, 50 battle points, 5 EXP, 3 stat points. Seeing this, Alaric stopped in his tracks and fell into deep thought. The rewards increased, but even if I do the mission daily, it would still take me more than 5 years to fill all the requirements. Alaric wasn't greatly affected. He could speed up the progress by completing missions with higher difficulty. Let's try doing the updated daily mission. He turned around and headed to the training ground, still dressed in his casual clothes. When he arrived, he saw a group of young warriors doing their training. He didn't bother them and chose a spot around the corner. The first one is a 1-hour physical training. He raised an eyebrow. There were numerous kinds of physical training and he didn't know which one to pick. I'll do 5 different kinds of exercises. That should be enough. Thinking about this, Alaric chose his favorite physical exercise, the push-ups. He made sure his posture was correct to hit the right muscles. With each push-up, he squeezed his muscles tightly. 100 push-ups, ballot box with check. After completing 100 push-ups, he stood up and wiped off the sweat on his face. He rested for an entire minute before moving to the next exercise. The next one was squats. He kept it simple. He didn't use weights and just performed the standard technique. 100 squats, ballot box with check. For the third exercise, Alaric chose another one of his favorites, the pull-ups. 100 pull-ups, ballot box with check. For the fourth one, Alaric chose sit-ups. He then chose sprints to spend the remainder of the 1 hour. 1 hour of physical training, ballot box with check. For the sword training, Alaric just did the ones he was familiar with, slashes and stabs. 1 hour of sword training, ballot box with check. Finally, it was time to perform the last one, which is also the most difficult. Elemental familiarization. Alaric had been doing this since having an affinity with the destruction element, but to keep it balanced, he also familiarized himself with the ice element for a quarter of an hour. 1 hour of elemental familiarization, ballot box with check. Daily mission complete. Rewards, 50 battle points, 5 EXP, 3 stat points. Alaric opened his profile and chuckled when he saw the small progress. He closed the system screen and headed to the mansion to clean himself up. Aaliyah watched Alaric leave after performing his daily training. His Highness has just advanced, but he still doesn't forget his training. She admired his discipline. Aaliyah, why don't we spar for a bit? A voice interrupted her thoughts. Turning her head, she saw Wolf looking at her with a competitive smile. Fine, but we should use real weapons. She snorted. Wolf was already the strongest among them, but she wasn't afraid of him. Wolf was taken aback, but he nodded at her request. Fine by me, but we shouldn't use mana. I don't want to hurt you. Aaliyah scoffed at his words. More like you're afraid to be defeated. Wolf giggled. He didn't mind her attitude. She had been like this since their conflict during the evening banquet. As the 2 young warriors stepped into position, the others cleared the way, giving them enough space. Hold on. Someone spoke just before they started. Renanti stared deeply at them and warned. There must be no use of lethal attacks. Otherwise, I will have to restrain you as your senior. Aaliyah didn't say anything, while Wolf nodded nonchalantly. Don't worry, brother. I will hold back. You may begin. Renanti acted as the referee. He was worried that they might accidentally injure each other, so he volunteered to officiate their spar. In the next moment, Aaliyah made the first move. Whoosh! She rushed forward while brandishing her sword at a complicated angle. Her agile footsteps made it hard for everyone to track her movements, but to Wolf, it was child's play. With a carefree smile, he took a step to the side and calmly lifted his sword. Shirring. The swift slash was deflected so easily. After deflecting the slash, Wolf stabbed out with his sword. Whoosh! Looking at his careless posture, Aaliyah frowned. Are you looking down on me, Wolf? Furious, she stepped forward to block his attack. Clang! Aaliyah then unleashed a downward slash that ripped through the air. Swish! Seeing this, Wolf finally became serious. He adjusted his position to evade the incoming slash. Bang! Aaliyah's sword struck the ground. She seemed to have anticipated that he would evade her move, so she did a quick turn and released a kick. Caught by surprise, Wolf found himself unable to evade, so he could only block the kick with his arm. Pa! The kick sent him back a couple of steps, making him a bit flustered. This time, he no longer dared to go easy on Aaliyah. He gave it his all. His attacks became more intense. His footwork also became faster and more precise. Aaliyah did everything she could to keep up with him, but Wolf was just the better guy. After a few minutes of exchanging blows, Aaliyah revealed an opening. Wolf capitalized on this and delivered the final strike. Whoosh! Looking at the sharp blade a few inches from her face, Aaliyah's expression dimmed. I lost again. That's enough, you two. Renanti quickly separated them. It's fine, Aaliyah. Losing a spar doesn't mean that you are weak. It means that you just need more training. You are one of the most talented among all of us, so you should trust yourself. Renanti comforted her. Aaliyah didn't respond and just hung her head low, dispirited. Renanti sighed upon seeing this. He then turned to Wolf and sternly said, "Wolf, you are the most talented in our group. But that doesn't mean that you are the strongest. You must never be arrogant because of your quick progress." Looking at Renanti's cold eyes, Wolf lowered his head. "I understand, brother." Renanti patted his shoulder. "Keep up the great work. I'm proud of your performance." Wolf's eyes lit up. "Yes, sir." Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today.